Washington Unplugged. I'm John Dickerson. President Obama accepted the Nobel Peace Prize this morning in Oslo, Norway, a week after announcing he was sending 30,000 more troops to Afghanistan. He did not ignore that irony, but met it head-on, making the case for war. Joining me now from the White House is CBS News' Mark Knoller to talk about the speech. Mark, I was struck that almost half of it was about the need and necessity for war. What did you think of the speech?
You know, John, as I was watching and listening to the speech, I was reminded of that old Edwin Starr song from 1970, War, What Is It Good For? Absolutely Nothing. It sounded like President Obama was making the case that, in fact, war is good for many things, that sometimes in order to get peace, you have to go to war. He spoke about war being justified. He spoke about war being conducted according to the rules of civilization. There was no denying that he was certainly aware of the apparent incongruity of here is a president, commander-in-chief of a military that is at war in two nations, Iraq and Afghanistan, and as you mentioned, just 9 days since ordering another 30,000 troops to Afghanistan. That'll bring up the American military presence there to upwards of 100,000. He didn't back away from it, he defended it, and he also sounded a lot like Theodore Roosevelt, who accepted a Nobel Peace Prize in 1910, giving a speech saying that sometimes in order to get peace, you have to go to war. And that was the basic argument President Obama was making in Oslo today.
Mark, the White House was put in a bit of a tricky political spot by this award, of course. There were a lot of people who were saying the president shouldn't go at all, should turn down the award. In advance of the speech, what were their goals in terms of trying to get out of this little pickle the president was put in?
Well, they didn't try to deny or disguise or obscure that President Obama is a war president about to receive a Nobel Peace Prize. His heroes were Martin Luther King and Mohandas Gandhi, people he mentioned in his speech, people who spoke of nonviolence and the need to eliminate war. But here you had President Obama making a very forceful argument that sometimes there is no alternative, that in order to achieve peace, a nation like the United States, which he referred to as the sole superpower in the world, sometimes needs to go to war.
That's right, and he also started by sort of taking on head-on this notion that he really wasn't worthy yet of the prize by saying, you know, his achievements had been slight. Mark Knoller from the White House lawn, thanks very much.
Thanks, John.
Now to debate the appropriateness of Obama receiving the award is Republican strategist Mackowiak and Faiz Shakir from the Center for American Progress. Matt, I want to start with you. What was your reaction to the speech?
Well, I think, first of all, as an American, it was a wonderful moment to see our sitting American president receive the Nobel Peace Prize in front of the world community. I have to at least admit that. I did think, though, although it was well written and well delivered, it was a unfocused and sort of a speech that was delivered on the one hand, on the other. There was really no clear focus. It was really incoherent, I felt. You know, sort of, it was given from a position of defensiveness, I think. He was trying to both prove that he was worth the award, but also, I think, affect world opinion about the decision with regard to Afghanistan. So I don't know what the central message of the speech was, and I don't think it was that effective for that specific reason.
Faiz, unfocused, what was your view of the speech?
Well, I thought it was an attempt by President Obama to lay out, to the extent that it would be described as such, the Obama doctrine, which is that you have a wartime president accepting a peace prize. I think his inclination is to have a world without nuclear weapons, to have a world that's at peace, but that there's difficulties that lie ahead for him. And so he was trying to establish how do you get from here to there, and at least laying out the vision of what it's going to look like once you get there. So of course it is a world without nuclear weapons where we use multilateral institutions and global cooperation to address issues like climate change, and try to appoint people in his administration across the board who are willing to engage in that. I think the other thing, of course, that Mark Knoller talked about is his desire to see war be carried out according to certain norms, and part of that was ending torture, closing Guantanamo, but also respecting civilians in the course of combat. So I think he's laid out what could be described as the Obama doctrine today.
When I was reading this speech, you could see a situation in which the president gets more grief from his friends on the left. I mean, it was almost more than half of the speech was devoted to the idea that war is necessary, war is required, and I wondered if that struck you as well.
That's absolutely the case. I think he was also speaking to a Nobel audience, of course, that's very peace-loving and receiving an award that is peace-oriented. So I think that he had to speak directly to that irony of receiving a peace award while being at a time of war. I think that he reconciled it. Of course, he wouldn't have received this award, first of all, if the committee who awarded to him knew that he was going to send more troops into Afghanistan. So I don't think this was any shock to anybody. But I think he had to reconcile the fact that he is escalating a conflict and doing so for morally justified reasons. So I think you saw the emphasis in the language of the speech talk about the moral reasons for staying and perhaps the moral alternatives to war, which could be pursued down the line.
Matt Mackowiak, I want to read you this sentence because the president has been criticized by conservatives for sort of speaking to Europeans in a way he thinks they might like to hear it. And if there's ever any more synthesized group of the European cartoon, it would be his audience that he spoke to today. And he said, whatever mistakes we've made, the plain fact is this: the United States of America has helped underwrite global security for more than 6 decades with the blood of our citizens and the strength of our arms. George Bush could have given that line.
He could have. And I think, there are sentences in there for conservatives to like. There are sentences in there for the left to like. That's why I think it was so unfocused. I don't think you can boil down his speech from this morning in Oslo to one specific idea. I think he was there defending the fact that he was awarded this prize after only 10 days in office, an aspirational award as he called it, but he was also trying to, as he said, I think kind of be amenable to the left in terms of escalating this conflict. So it reminded me a little bit of a speech that you would give to UN General Assembly because it touched on all the international issues on the waterfront. And so by doing everything, I think it really did nothing. That would be the criticism that I have, is it was so unfocused and so incoherent. While well delivered and while it was powerful to see an American president on that stage, I don't know what the central message of the speech was. And a speech has to have a message or else there's no point.
If that rap, of course, has been leveled at the president before, I think his argument would be, though, that the world sometimes requires a situation in which you have war and another in which you have aggressive diplomacy. And he made the case for aggressive diplomacy with countries like Iran. That message didn't get through to you. No,
he did, and I remember that passage as well. That he obviously defended his position of working with the Iranian government, Ahmadinejad, that he put forward in this campaign for president. I just come away from the speech not quite knowing exactly what the message was, and that's the criticism. I think it came from a position of weakness and defensiveness, not from a position of strength. This speech today, the White House was conflicted about giving the speech. What message should they send? Was it going to hurt him at home to be again in the capitals of Europe delivering a speech to a foreign audience? So I think it was an aspirational award, and in his foreign policy, there haven't really been any successes yet. Yes, he's only been in office a little less than a year, but he's got to start chalking up some wins in foreign policy, not just sort of talking in rosy language. He's got to start getting some victories.
Faiz, I want to first ask you about that question of successes in foreign policy. What's your sense of that? I mean, where do you think this president has been successful on the foreign policy front?
Well, I think it's fair to say that at least half the award has been given to him because he's not President Bush. I think both sides acknowledge that. And we had a president who the international community largely despised for the way he went to war in Iraq, for his appointment of people like John Bolton to head the UN, for the way he treated multilateral agreements, whether it was the Kyoto Protocol, the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, the Law of the Sea Treaty, you go down the line. But President Bush and Dick Cheney hated all of them. And so now you've got a president who's saying to the international community on the day he was elected that I'm here to engage with you. We're going to work these solutions together. We may disagree, but I'm at the table talking to you. And I think half of that award and the speech was saying, you now can have faith in the United States being a partner to solve some of these global challenges. The other half, I think, was actually laying out that agenda, which I don't think Matt gives enough credit to. I think a world without nuclear weapons. He laid this out in April in Prague, that he would like to see 0 nuclear weapons, and I think he's now pursued that. He's working on a START treaty with Russia currently, and I think they'll sign that agreement here shortly. Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty hopefully next year, and then of course Copenhagen is going on right now. I think all of these are issues we can look at concretely and say that the way the Obama administration is dealing with these is vastly different than the way President Bush is, and the International Committee endorses the way President Obama is dealing with it.
Okay, Shakir with the last word. Matt Mackowiak, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank all of you for watching Washington Unplugged. Find us here every weekday at 12:30 p.m. on CBSNews.com. I'm John Dickerson. Have a great day.